After the customer signs off on the project, it's time to clean up the loose ends in the project. You hold one last meeting with your team before you send them off to their next assignments. Then you can finalize the project documentation and close out financial details. Start with what went well. Ask questions like, what did you do that made things work better? What was the toughest challenge you solved, and how did you handle it? If you were going to brag about something from this project, what would it be? Before you address the problems people faced, remind team members to talk about themselves, not others. That way, the focus is on the lessons, not blaming. Ask questions like, what would you do differently next time? Or what can we learn from this? In our relocation example, you might launch the problem discussion by talking about the discoloration of the flooring that was delivered. You had to take a stand with the vendor to get a new rush delivery and not pay extra. What you learned was to leave extra time to check materials for quality or damage. If your organization doesn't have a way to share lessons, set one up so everyone can benefit. For example, a web page with tips and best practices, a handout to tack to a wall, or a document in a shared folder. For resources from other groups, you can end their assignments on the right note by thanking the people who worked on your project, letting their managers know that they're done, and providing a brief appraisal of their performance. Prepare a brief final report that summarizes the results. First, include a brief description of the results and how they compared to the original desired results. Second, list the key project measures, the finish date, and how it compares to the planned finish date, the final cost, and how that compares to the budget. For example, the relocation project finished by the date the owner wanted. It cost a little more than planned, but the clients are thrilled. Third, describe any major changes to the plan, such as an item within scope that was added or eliminated. For example, the extra structural support needed for some of the equipment. Finally, include information to share with others, like important lessons learned or significant issues you had to resolve. If you store project files electronically in an easily accessible area, it's easy to grab the whole kit and caboodle and store a copy with other archived projects or in an archive location you create. Don't forget other electronic data like emails and instant message conversations. You might want to copy those to separate files and add them to your archive. You can place paperwork like signed contracts and approvals in a notebook and add that to your project notebook library on a bookshelf, or scan them to keep everything electronic. If you set up any contracts for the project, take whatever steps you need to close those out. Projects that run within a large organization might get accounting codes that you charge to for time and expenses. In that case, don't forget to tell the accounting department to close those charge codes so no one charges to your project after it's done. People tend to want to move on to the next thing, but don't skip these steps. To get in the habit, write up a checklist of closing steps that apply within your organization and pull it out when you get to the end of each project.